We often think, or we kind of assume, that coaching is about telling people what to do. But I believe that 90% of coaching is actually about asking. And honestly, if you can ask enough of the right questions and have your client solve their problem themselves, then you're like a master. If you can just ask enough questions so that they figure out their problem and they solve it. Likely, the scenario is you're going to have to ask, and then there will be a coaching opportunity. That's when you tell them. But that will come from asking questions over and over and over and continuing to, as I call, get curious and be a detective. So when we're talking about asking lots of questions, I want to first explain something called unconditional positive regard. Okay. Unconditional positive regard means accepting and supporting someone without judgment, regardless of their actions or words. Okay. This is something that we learned in
Gavin, can
yeah.
you repeat that one more time?
So unconditional positive regard is accepting and supporting someone without judgment, regardless of their actions or their words. Okay, so we are going to support them, and I'll explain more how this looks, but we are going to support them no matter what they do or what they say, because we know they're going to go off the rails at some point. So as you're asking your client questions, you must ask from this place of, we'll call it empathy, and like truly wanting to help them solve the problem. We're kind of working with them to solve the problem, even if they're frustrating you, right? This isn't, we're fighting because they're not doing the thing we want. We're trying to go in the same direction. So let's work with them. So, for example, let's say a client's recent check-in shows that they missed 2 of their 4 workouts last week. You know they can do better than this. This is a pattern, and you know they're making bullshit excuses. Yeah. So you need to challenge them, but they are likely angry enough at themselves, or at the very least, they're feeling some shame and guilt about the fact that they didn't do this. So they don't need you to come in and scream about what they need to do. Okay. You might want to get angry at them, but I'm going to propose a better method. And this method is going to get you, like, so you telling them to do something different is going to fix the problem in the short term. They're going to be like, oh shit, coach is mad at me. I got to go change what I'm doing. But we're going to see that pattern come back again later. If you want to get the answers you need so that we can actually shift this belief, we need to ask them with true curiosity, right? This is that unconditional positive regard. So you basically need to hold them in such a positive regard that the only possible explanation for them missing those 2 workouts was because their dog died. Like, what happened? Something terrible must have happened for you to miss those 2 workouts. This is that like unconditional, like it can't just be because you're not going to the workouts. So here's how we frame questions in a way that will make them feel safe enough and allow them to open up and allow you to figure out what the actual problem is.
Gavin,
Okay.
can you do one example of somebody who blew their weekend?
Who blew their weekend? Yeah. So let's use that as the example in this next slide. So they're great Monday to Friday, and then they shit the bed Saturday, Sunday, right? Everyone's experienced that with their clients, right? They ate like crap, they drank too much, they didn't sleep. Cool. So here's how we frame questions in a way that will make them feel safe and allow them to actually open up. Okay. I see you had a tough weekend. You know, looks like you fell off the radar. I didn't hear from you, or maybe they shared something in their review. I see you had a tough weekend. So we start with a factual statement. I see you had a tough weekend. That's a fact, right? Or, maybe if they just kind of disappeared, I notice you disappeared and you didn't check in for a couple of days or something like something that is factual. Then There's no opinions there. Then we ask an open-ended question. So here's a fact that I noticed. Here's an open-ended question. The simplest open-ended question is, what happened? What happened? Right? So here's what I noticed. What happened? This can also be done on the positive side when they do something good to like reverse engineer success, right? And your progress photos look amazing this month or this week. What do you think has been the reason for your success? Right?
Can I
Factual
challenge you
statement
on
question.
can I challenge you on the one that we get a lot? Clients that fill in a check-in sheet but are not honest. So you know they're lying. How would you use
Yeah.
this work for that one?
And so my question for you then, Frank, is how do we know they're lying?
You can calculate it. So based on the progress they're making, based on let's say somebody has to lose weight, let's say half a kilo a week,
Sure.
and put them in a deficit and they're gaining weight on that diet plan. Like,
Yeah.
we all
Okay.
know that's impossible.
Yeah. We know as coaches, right? This, and so this is another perfect opportunity to state a fact. Okay. So let me just pull together what I'm seeing here. I noticed that, we've got you in a deficit, which based on the 150 other clients that I have helped, or the thousands of other clients that I have helped, when you're in a deficit, you should be losing about half a kilo a week. I notice that you're actually gaining weight. So what's happening? It sounds like we're missing something. Can you explain to me what's happening? Again, I'm stating the facts, and this is, going to come back to later what we're going to talk about, which is like we need to read between the lines, right? Which is exactly what you're talking about. Well, based on what we're doing here, this is not the results we should be getting. So I'm going to become the detective and I'm going to say, what's going on? Like they might say, well, I don't know what's going on. I'm sticking to everything and da da da. And it's like, okay, cool. So then maybe there's stress in their lives or they're not sleeping or something like that. But basically what we need to do is we need to say like, okay, based on the information that I'm receiving, you should be losing half a kilo a week. What's going on? This is a fact. It's not, there's no opinion here. And the likely scenario here is going to be one of two things. Either that's when the dam is going to break and they're going to actually open up and tell you what's happening, or they'll disappear. You've probably all seen that, right? They'll disappear, which is when that they're for sure that they're lying. And now we obviously have got a different problem. We've got to go find them. But this is what I would call essentially the way that you hold someone to a higher standard without, or not necessarily challenging them, but just saying, I'm going to hold you to a higher standard. You can choose to jump on the train or you can choose to leave. And that's how this works. Frank, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
You
in
just framed it really good in the beginning.
yeah, in doing this, we're acting like a detective who's trying to help them solve the problem and not like an angry parent or teacher who's punishing them. They're already punishing themselves by screwing up the diet and probably angry at themselves. What we need to do, the whole point of this is we need to make them feel at ease and need to make them feel open to sharing what's actually going on. Because again, if they're sitting there lying in their check-ins, that's not helping anybody, but that's their pattern of keeping themselves safe. That's how they keep themselves from, you know, actually looking at what's going on. Now, I know you guys have all had that experience. I'm hoping that this feels a little bit less confrontational for you and a little bit more, let's solve the problem together. Okay. Factual statement. This is what I saw. This is what I'm noticing. Open-ended question. Can you tell me what happened? Or can you explain to me what's going on? Cool. Next step, really important step, listen to them. Okay. If you guys have never heard of what's called active listening, it's listening to understand what they're saying. When most people listen, they listen on the surface level to what they're actually saying. But what I want you guys to learn is listen to what they're really saying when they're talking to you, because there's always going to be subtext between the lines. So there's going to be key phrases and key little nuggets that I'm going to teach you in a second that you can pull out that are going to show you their real feelings and their real stories underneath the bullshit, underneath the excuses. Because we've all heard the excuses, but what are the excuses really telling you? I'm going to give you two specifics on the next slide, but you're listening for, here's the most important thing you're listening for. Where are they making an assumption that's not actually true? Where are they assuming, or are they stating something as fact that is not a fact? Okay. That's what we're listening for.